Over the years, I've written some poems and songs and whatnot about the Model A, and we've used them in some of our Oakleaf Model A Club functions. And we get everybody up there, and they might sing one. And I don't write the songs. We sing to "You Are My Sunshine" or "You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me, Lucille." And I thought I would recite a few of these. I'm not going to be singing anything, and just to document them. And if somebody wants to use them in their club, they certainly can. But they won't get lost this way. So the first one I have is a poem down on the farm. Down on the farm a long time ago, my daddy taught me how to fix cars and make 'em go. I spent a lot of time flat on my back, looking up at the car with the help of a jack. I had a small visitor from time to time. She was a cute little girl. I didn't mind. For some reason, she seemed really interested in any wrench that I ever twisted. She got pretty good knowing which wrench to grab. When I messed up, she was quick with a rag. She got smarter and smarter and as cute as a pup, and I was happy to see her show up. She was always there in her little t-shirt, but then one day things were different. There she was in a mini skirt and a bumpy t-shirt. She got prettier and prettier as time went on, but it was college time, so I left the farm. I saw her a lot in that short time, and now we're married and now she's mine. Oh, what a woman sits on my knee, as pretty as a picture and as nice as can be. This one is a song to "You Are My Sunshine," but no singing. You are my Model A, my only Model A. You may take me places I'd love to stay. You never fail me or go astray. Please don't take away my Model A. When you boil over, you need a drink. I have to fill you to the brink. You make a mess I have to clean. Please don't make a lot of steam. When your water pump leaks, you make a mess. I have to clean your hood and all the rest. It's no fun at all to breathe that mist and stop to give that nut a twist. My Model A, my Model A, when you make wrong turns, you go astray. You leave me here to find my home. I'll have to learn to drive alone. If it ain't leaking, it needs some filling. The oil goes in, then it drips back out. It is not hard to follow you. Along the roadway, you leave some goo. Oh, Model A, why won't you start? I give you gas and a lot of spark, and you just sit there and grind away. Can't we start up and drive away? Now, this was a song, a takeoff from the Hank Williams Jr. song, I think it is, "If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie." If they don't have A's in heaven, I don't want to go. If they don't have A's in heaven, I just as soon stay home. If they don't have a Model A roundup like they do in old Oakleaf, send me to hell or New York City. It'd be about the same to me. If they don't have flugelhorns that make that beautiful sound, if they don't have cackling engines, I just as soon stick around. If they don't have A's in heaven like we have right here today, let me stay and drive around and enjoy this beautiful day. Now this one was to Mary Oldsmobile. Come ride with me, Renee, in my brand new Model A. We will bounce around the town and sneak home without a sound. If your mother's waiting up, we'll just stop and pick her up. She'll be happy for us too, 'cause you finally said I do. We'll get hitched without delay and ride off in my Model A. We will ride around the town making that ooga sound. We'll have family right away and fill up that Model A. We will keep her till she's old and gray, our beautiful Model A. There she sits behind the barn, all tired out and badly worn. She's waiting for someone to show up and make her run. They will fix her up, I'm sure, and put her back on tour. She'll hold her head up high and cause smiles when she goes by. She'll be beautiful again and cause all the kids to grin. Her new owner will proudly say, "This is my new Model A." This one is from the song, "You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me, Lucille." And this, I did this one for a Christmas party we had, and each verse is about a mishap or a problem one of our members had, and I'll mention their names. You picked a fine time to break down old A, with my tools and parts far away. Been through the bad coil, the sludge in the old oil, but now you have ruined my day. You picked a bad time to break down old A. Now this one's about Herb. I followed him in my car while he was leaking oil. You picked a fine time to leak your rear main. I followed behind as you took your best aim. I washed and I washed her. I scrubbed her down hard, but my windshield will never be quite the same. You picked a fine time to leak your rear main. This one's about Chuck, who chipped a tooth while we were at a senior home. He was giving rides to the ladies. You picked a fine time to cause our worst fear, riding the girls and calling them dear. As you drove at high speed, your hands they did freeze, and you chipped off a tooth on your gear. You picked a fine time to cause our worst fear. This is about Ted. We were down in the Amish country in Ohio, and his car would die out every time he'd come to a stop. You picked a fine time to die and spark out. It took until dark, but we figured it out. You lit up the roadway and scared the kids away. The brake pedal shorted things out. You picked a fine time to die and spark out. Well, this one's about Reed, who had a lot of flat tires on one tour down in the Ohio area. You picked a fine time to have 4 flat tires, all running well till you stopped all the cars. 1 is okay, 2 is a charm, but 4 is a pain in the arse. You picked a fine time to have 4 flat tires. This one's Mike. He didn't watch his fuel gauge. You picked a fine time to need gasoline. You passed all the stations and space in between. You sit there like an old mule, make me look like a damn fool, and now you're the star of the scene. You picked a fine time to need gasoline. This is Bill, who broke his axle on Grosse Ile during a tour. You picked a fine time to break that axle. Out on an island, all running quite well. Bill jumped out to say, all looks quite okay, till the wheel from the axle, it fell. You picked a fine time to break that axle. This is our friend Bob, who had a problem all the way down in Williamsburg. And he had a leak. We tried to fix it. We couldn't. We all went on tour. Bob was going to take it to a radiator shop. He ended up in like 100-degree heat in a parking lot taking his radiator out because the guy wouldn't fix it while it was on the car. You picked a fine time to spring that small leak, big enough to cause overheat. We tried the quick fix, the epoxy we did mix, but you fixed it alone in the heat. You picked a fine time to spring that small leak. This is Bill. He broke his axle earlier, and now he's got a manifold leak, again in Ohio. You picked a fine time to sound that tick-tick. Loud and annoying, made the engine quite sick. Gene found a new gasket. On camera, you fixed it, and the tour did not miss a lick. You picked a fine time to sound that tick-tick. This is Ray, who had what he thought was a clutch problem. You picked a fine time to fail that new clutch. RC didn't think the job was too tough. Out comes the rear spring, in goes the new thing. Turns out it was not the clutch. You picked a fine time to fail that new clutch. This is Jim. Early when he was a member of the club, he had broken engine mounts. And this is how we found them. There once was an engine called Jim, who had no engine mounts with him. When the brake was applied, the engine would rise. 'Twas the cross shaft that held up old Jim. There once was an engine called Jim. This is Bill, who had a second time he ran out of gas. You picked a fine time to run that tank dry. 23 cars unable to drive. This all happened before. Into my gas line we tore. A third time we'll tell you goodbye. You picked a fine time to run that tank dry. Now this is the same bill, same problem, only another member wrote this one. Jim. You picked a fine time to run out of gas. 22 A's unable to pass. We've had some breakdowns, misfires and go-rounds, but this time we sat on our ass. You picked a fine time to run out of gas. Now I include this little write-up. It's not a poem, just a short story I wrote. It might be published somewhere sometime, I don't know. Some good advice from a couple of old Model A's. I overheard these two Model A's talking, Elmer and Clayton. Elmer is a coupe and Clayton a nice-looking roadster. I was standing right there next to them and they didn't care a bit. They just kept talking. They said that their friend Sally, another Model A, had a really bad time getting over a cracked engine block. It cracked right there above the starter, right where they all crack. The owner, an old-timer, let her freeze up. What a mess. She later ended up with the family, and they did not know what to do with her. Hard to have fun with a Model A without a running engine. She sat for a long time and finally got a new owner who fixed her up. She's fine now, but still worries about being left with just water in her engine in the wintertime. Elmer said that it's okay to run just water in the summertime as long as you don't forget to get it out of there before the cold weather hits. A lot of owners who do this use heat transfer or boiling point as a justification. Clayton chimed in saying that all that did not matter as long as they kept a free-flowing radiator in them. He went on to say that with all the old owners just getting older, it's real easy to forget just one time and bang, you have a big problem. Some old-timers just don't feel like playing with their A in a cold garage. They keep putting it off and forget, or have a little health issue, and there she sits waiting for trouble. No one else in the family will think about getting the water out or getting antifreeze in there until it is too late. Come spring, everyone will figure it out, and you will end up just like Sally. Elmer said that the owners do start forgetting things a bit more each year, but this is something they should not need to worry about. Just keep good old antifreeze in there year-round and everyone will be happy. You can forget about a lot of things you should do for an A, but this one is a killer. Clayton said that he hoped that all the owners would think about this before they decide to run just water. It's easy to forget and hard to fix. I don't know how to explain it, but I swear Elmer's quail turned toward me and winked. Maybe I was dreaming this whole time, but it does seem like a good thing to do. That's all, folks.